Let me ask you something real today. What do you do when you are strong for everybody else, but nobody is strong for you? What do you do when you're the one who listens, the one who carries, the one who fixes, the one who holds the family together, but when you're tired, when you're breaking, when you're silent, nobody notices? There comes a moment in life when God does not send a crowd. He does not send applause. He does not send validation. He sends strength, but not from people. He puts it inside you. And today, I'm talking to the ones who had to grow up early, the ones who smiled through pain, the ones who kept going even when they felt invisible. This is about being strong for yourself when no one else is. Because sometimes God allows the silence around you so you can finally hear the power within you. There are moments in life when the phone stops ringing, the messages slow down, and the people you once leaned on are suddenly busy, distant, or gone. At first, it feels like abandonment. You ask yourself what you did wrong, why no one is showing up, why the weight feels heavier than usual. But what most people don't realize is that this is often the exact moment when God begins his deepest work inside a person. When outer support disappears, inner strength is born. Think about daily life. A student preparing for an important exam may find that friends who once studied together are no longer available. Family members might say, "You'll be fine," without really understanding the pressure. In that quiet room with books open and doubts loud, something shifts. The student realizes no one else can do this work for them. They sit with discomfort, push through fear, and discover a level of focus and discipline they didn't know they had. That strength didn't come from encouragement. It came from necessity. God allowed the silence so growth could happen. In workplaces, many people experience this too. You give your best effort, help others, stay late, and show loyalty. Then one day you face a challenge alone. No guidance, no praise, no safety net. It hurts. But it's in that moment you stop waiting for approval and start trusting your own judgment. You make decisions. You take responsibility. You become confident not because someone clapped for you, but because God taught you how to stand without applause. Parents experience this in powerful ways. A single parent waking up before sunrise, preparing meals, managing finances, and handling emotional weight with no one to share the burden with. There is no audience for their exhaustion. No one sees the silent prayers whispered while washing dishes or folding clothes, yet day after day they rise. That strength is not accidental. God places endurance inside people who must carry more than others. When support is missing, strength steps in. Even emotionally, when friendships fade or relationships break, there's a lesson hidden in the pain. At first, the loneliness feels unbearable. You replay conversations. You wish someone would understand. But over time, you learn to sit with yourself. You become aware of your own thoughts, your values, your boundaries. You stop chasing connection at the cost of your peace. God uses emotional distance to teach self-respect and inner stability. Strength developed this way is different. It's quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It's the kind of strength that keeps you moving even when motivation disappears. It's waking up tired but choosing discipline. It's continuing to show kindness when life has been unfair. It's trusting that even when no one sees your effort, God does. People often think strength comes from having many supporters, but real strength is revealed when there are none. When no one reminds you of your worth, you learn to remind yourself. When no one believes in your vision, you protect it more fiercely. God teaches you that reliance on people can change, but reliance on inner strength keeps you steady. Daily life is full of these quiet tests. Paying bills alone, making hard choices without advice, healing from disappointment without comfort. These moments feel heavy, but they shape character. God doesn't remove support to hurt you. He removes it to grow you, to show you that what you need has been within you all along. One day, you look back and realize you are no longer the same person. You don't panic as easily. You don't crumble under pressure. You trust yourself more. And you understand that the seasons where you felt alone were actually seasons where God was teaching you how strong you truly are. Because when outer support disappears, inner strength doesn't just appear. It rises. And once it does, no situation can ever take it away. There are seasons in life when the room gets quiet, not because something is wrong, but because something important is being formed. Loneliness is often misunderstood as rejection. Yet many times it is simply God clearing space so you can grow without distraction. When people step away and conversations fade, it feels uncomfortable at first. Silence has a way of exposing fears we usually keep hidden. But that same silence also becomes a classroom where strength, clarity, and self-awareness are taught in ways no crowd ever could. In daily life, this happens more often than we admit. A person moves to a new city for work or study, full of hope but suddenly far from familiar faces. The evenings feel long, meals are eaten alone. There is no one to immediately share small victories or frustrations with. At first, the loneliness feels heavy, almost suffocating, but over time, something shifts. You begin to listen to your own thoughts. You discover what truly matters to you when no one is influencing your choices. God uses this space to help you understand who you are beyond roles, labels, and expectations. Students experience this training ground when they must prepare alone. No teacher hovering, no friend pushing them, no parent reminding them, just time, responsibility, and choice. Loneliness teaches discipline. It teaches how to keep going without external motivation. God allows this separation so focus can sharpen. You learn that consistency matters more than encouragement, and commitment matters more than company. Even emotional healing often requires solitude. After a heartbreak or deep disappointment, people rush to fill the emptiness with noise, new relationships, constant distractions, endless scrolling. But real healing doesn't happen in chaos. It happens when you sit with the pain and allow yourself to feel it. God uses loneliness to slow you down so wounds can be understood, not ignored. In that quiet, you learn boundaries. You learn what you deserve. You learn that your value does not depend on someone choosing you. Many people discover their creativity during lonely seasons. Writers write, thinkers think, dreamers dream. When the world steps back, imagination steps forward. God often removes the audience so the vision can grow without pressure. You stop performing and start creating. You stop comparing and start becoming. That's why some of the strongest ideas are born when no one is watching. Loneliness also builds emotional resilience. When you learn how to sit with yourself, you become harder to break. You no longer fear being alone because you understand it is not the same as being unloved. God teaches you that peace does not always come from companionship. It comes from alignment with yourself and trust in His process. In families, this training ground appears when responsibilities increase but support does not. A person becomes the strong one, the problem solver, the one everyone depends on. There's little room for their own weakness. In that quiet strength, endurance develops. God shapes patience, wisdom, and emotional control in those moments where complaining would be easy but growth is chosen instead. Over time, loneliness loses its power to intimidate. It becomes familiar, even useful. You learn how to recharge in silence. You learn how to hear your intuition. You learn how to stand without needing reassurance. God uses these moments to prepare you for future responsibilities that require inner stability, not external noise. When people return into your life, they meet a different version of you, someone calmer, someone clearer, someone less desperate for approval, and they may never know that it was loneliness that shaped you this way, but God knows, and that's enough, because loneliness was never meant to break you, it was meant to train you. There are ideas that begin quietly inside a person long before the world is ready to understand them. They arrive without applause, without explanation, and often without agreement. When God places a vision in your heart, it does not come with a committee or a vote. It comes as a knowing, soft but persistent, fragile yet powerful. The problem is, most people wait for permission before they move. They look for approval, validation, or reassurance from others, and when it doesn't come, they start doubting what God planted within them. In daily life, this shows up in simple but meaningful ways. A young person feels drawn toward a path that doesn't match family expectations. Maybe they want to start a small business instead of following a traditional career, or pursue art when everyone else says it's impractical. Every conversation feels like resistance. Advice turns into discouragement. Slowly, confidence begins to shrink. But self-belief in this moment is not arrogance, it is alignment. God did not place that desire in everyone, only in you. Expecting others to understand what they were never given is an unfair burden to place on yourself. Think about someone who starts waking up early to work on a dream before the rest of the house is awake. No one claps for discipline at 5 a.m. No one praises consistency in silence. There are no likes, no comments, no public recognition, just effort and faith. Yet each quiet morning builds strength. Self-belief grows not from attention, but from action. God honors movement even when the crowd is absent. In workplaces, this plays out when someone has ideas that could improve systems or create change, but they are ignored or dismissed. It's easy to shrink in those moments, to decide it's safer to stay quiet. But believing in your own insight is not disrespectful. It is responsible. God gives perspective to different people for different reasons. When you trust your ability to think, learn, and adapt, you are honoring the intelligence God placed in you. Self-belief also matters deeply in healing. After failure or rejection, people often lose trust in themselves. They replay mistakes and start believing they are incapable of better. Growth requires believing that you can rise again. God does not define you by your lowest moment. When you believe you can learn, adjust, and move forward, you are aligning with God's intention for renewal and progress. Daily responsibilities demand this belief too. A parent making decisions for their family, a student choosing a direction, a person rebuilding life after loss. These choices require inner confidence. Waiting for reassurance in every step creates delay and doubt. God equips you with judgment so you can move even when certainty feels incomplete. Self-belief is also protection. When you lack it, you become vulnerable to other people's opinions controlling your direction. One comment can shake you. One failure can stop you. But when you trust what God placed within you, criticism becomes information, not identity. You listen without collapsing. Over time, self-belief becomes quieter but stronger. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't argue for your vision. You simply work. You understand that God's approval matters more than public understanding. And eventually, results speak where words once failed. Believing in yourself does not mean you will never feel fear. It means you move despite it. It means you honor the inner voice God gave you, even when the outer world is silent. Because when God plants a vision in you, believing in yourself is not pride, it is obedience. Pain enters life quietly and stays longer than expected. It shows up in ordinary moments, missed opportunities, broken trust, harsh words, unexpected loss. Most people wish pain would disappear quickly, but God often allows it to remain long enough to change us. The difference between pain that destroys and pain that strengthens is the decision to keep going. When you refuse to quit, pain slowly turns into power. In daily life, this transformation begins in small, unseen ways. A student fails an important exam after months of effort. The disappointment feels crushing. For days, motivation disappears. The easy option is to give up, to believe the failure defines ability. But when that student chooses to try again, to study smarter, to face fear instead of avoiding it, something shifts. The pain of failure becomes fuel. Confidence grows not because success came easily, but because perseverance was chosen. At work, people experience rejection constantly. Applications are ignored. Promotions go to others. Effort seems unnoticed. Each rejection stings. Over time, repeated disappointment can harden the heart or sharpen it. Those who refuse to quit begin learning resilience. They improve skills, refine communication, and strengthen patience. God uses rejection to build endurance that success alone could never create. Emotional pain follows the same pattern. Heartbreak, betrayal, or loss can leave a person feeling empty. It's tempting to shut down emotionally to avoid vulnerability, but healing requires courage. Choosing to feel, to reflect, and to continue loving life despite past hurt is strength in action. God transforms emotional pain into wisdom when quitting is not an option. Parents often understand this deeply. Raising children brings exhaustion, worry, and sacrifice. There are days filled with self-doubt and nights without rest. Quitting is not an option, so endurance grows. Shapes patience and unconditional love through daily effort. Pain becomes power when responsibility is met with persistence. Physical challenges tell the same story. Recovery from illness or injury demands patience and discipline. Progress is slow. Pain is constant. Yet each small step forward builds confidence. God strengthens both body and spirit through the refusal to give up. Even socially, people who face criticism or misunderstanding develop inner toughness. When you continue being authentic despite judgment, your sense of identity strengthens. God teaches you that your worth is not defined by others' opinions. Over time, pain loses its ability to control you. It becomes a reminder of survival, not weakness. You realize that quitting would have stolen growth. The strength you carry now exists because you endured when giving up felt easier. God does not glorify suffering, but He honors perseverance. When you refuse to quit, pain becomes proof of your resilience, and resilience becomes power that no circumstance can take away. There comes a moment in life when you realize that no one is coming to rescue you. No call, no advice, no emotional safety net. At first, that realization feels heavy, even unfair. But hidden inside that moment is a powerful shift. When you learn to stand with God, you stop waiting for others to hold you up, and you begin to discover the strength to support yourself. This is not loneliness. It is alignment. In daily life, this often begins during times of pressure. A person faces financial responsibility alone. Bills arrive whether support exists or not. Stress builds quietly. At first, fear dominates the mind. But then something changes. You start planning. You become disciplined. You make wiser decisions. You learn how to calm yourself when anxiety rises. God does not remove the challenge. He teaches you how to carry it. And with each problem you solve on your own, confidence grows. Emotionally, this lesson becomes even deeper. There are moments when you want someone to understand you, to comfort you, to say the right words, but they don't. The silence hurts. But instead of collapsing, you learn how to talk to yourself with honesty and compassion. You learn how to sit with your emotions instead of running from them. God teaches you that self-support is not weakness. It is maturity. You stop begging for validation and start protecting your peace. Students experience this when motivation disappears. No teacher is watching. No one is reminding them to stay focused. Discipline becomes a personal choice. On the days when quitting feels easier than continuing, self-support matters. God strengthens the inner voices. Keep going. And that voice becomes louder than distraction. In relationships, this strength is life-changing. When you no longer rely on others to define your worth, you stop accepting less than you deserve. You don't chase attention. You don't fear being alone. God teaches you that wholeness does not come from being chosen. It comes from knowing who you are. And when you stand with God, you stand complete. Professionally, this mindset builds leadership. Leaders are not made by constant guidance. They are formed when decisions must be made alone. God sharpens judgment when responsibility increases. You learn how to trust your instincts, correct your mistakes, and keep moving forward without needing constant reassurance. Daily routines reflect this strength too. Waking up on difficult days, showing up tired, choosing discipline over excuses. These quiet acts build character. God sees consistency long before success becomes visible. Eventually, you stop fearing isolation. You understand that God is present even when people are absent. And that presence strengthens you from within. You become your own support system, not because you are alone, but because God has taught you how to stand. When life tests you again, you don't panic. You remember that you have survived before. You trust yourself, and you trust God. That is true strength. Some of the strongest people you will ever meet were shaped in battles no one applauded. There were no witnesses, no encouragement, no visible rewards, only quiet endurance. God often chooses hidden places to build visible strength. The world celebrates victories, but God shapes warriors in struggle. What happens in private forms the foundation for everything that eventually appears in public. In daily life, this begins with silent responsibilities. A person becomes the one everyone depends on, the fixer, the listener, the problem solver. They carry stress without complaint. They absorb pressure so others can breathe. No one notices the toll it takes, but God does. Each unseen effort strengthens emotional muscles. Over time, that quiet strength becomes reliability, wisdom, and calm under pressure. Students know this kind of battle well. Studying late nights alone, pushing through confusion, fighting self-doubt when results aren't immediate. No one sees the frustration or the fear of failure, but every hour spent persevering builds discipline. God uses these unseen struggles to develop focus and confidence that will later support success. Professionally, many people rise through challenges that go unnoticed. Learning new skills after work, recovering from setbacks without recognition, enduring unfair treatment while staying professional. These experiences refine character. God teaches patience and resilience where no spotlight exists. Emotionally, unseen battles are the hardest. Managing anxiety, healing from loss, rebuilding self-esteem after rejection. These struggles are invisible to others, but they shape emotional depth and empathy. God grows compassion in those who know pain intimately. Family responsibilities also forge strength. Caring for others while suppressing personal exhaustion. Choosing responsibility over comfort. God honors sacrifices that no one thanks you for. Over time, these hidden battles transform a person. They become grounded, steady, and resilient. When success finally arrives, it looks effortless from the outside, but it is built on years of unseen effort. God knows every private victory, and the strength born there lasts longer than any applause. Because what is built in silence stands strongest in storms.